G'day humans, Stead from Fine here. Today I'm reviewing the Theragun Mini from Therabody. Now, Therabody has carved out quite a name for itself in recent years, delivering high quality premium health tech. Now, I previously reviewed the Theragun Pro, which is a bit of a life changer, really, the top of the range model, professional grade, incredible for dealing with your aches and pains. It's like having a physio in your house, basically. But the Theragun Mini here represents the bottom of the Therabody range. So, how does it stack up? Is it any good? Let's jump into my Theragun Mini review. So let's start by talking about the price. The Theragun Mini here retails in Australia for $349. However, I have seen it as low as $243, which is obviously a substantial discount. So definitely make sure you look around for a better price than that retail price. And indeed, you can check the Finder review, which I'll put a link for in the description, where we have the best deal in any given moment of time linked through. So that is where you should go to find out if you can get it for less than that $349. Now, to put that in context, the Theragun Pro will set you back $899 here in Australia, so obviously a substantial jump up. And you have two models in between. You have the Elite at $649 and the Prime at $499. So realistically, if you can find one of these for less than 250 bucks, that's an incredibly good price for that Therabody level of quality. So let's talk about some of the key features here, and I might actually just bring out the Theragun Pro, which I do have on hand, so that can give you a bit of an idea of the lowest and the highest of the Therabody range. So you can see quite a substantial difference in size, and as will probably not be a surprise, that means that there's a substantial difference in the power between these two. But as I'll go into, that probably shouldn't concern you too much. So looking at the Theragun Mini and its key features, it uses the QX35 proprietary brushless motor. So the Pro uses the QX150, so QX35 for the Mini. You've still got the same percussions per minute, which is how much it goes in and out, which is 1750 to 2400 range. The only difference is that you got 3 presets only on the Theragun Mini, where the Pro you have 5 presets, and also the option to customize something specifically via the app. The percussion depth on the Theragun Mini is 12 millimeters, on the Pro it's 16, so still pretty high, but not quite as high as the Pro. The battery, you get 150 minutes with the Mini, the Pro you get 300 minutes. So half the battery life, but 150 minutes still pretty good. You only got the one attachment included, which is the standard ball with the Theragun Mini. The Theragun Mini is 650 grams, the Pro is 1.3 kilograms, so quite a substantial weight difference there with the Mini. The Mini is also the quietest of the range, by a fair bit actually, in my opinion. And you don't get any of the kind of OLED screen or Bluetooth connections, or as I mentioned, the speed customization with the Mini that you do get on the Pro, obviously spending a heck of a lot more money to get that. So running through those features, you can see how it compares to the Theragun Pro, and it would seem, oh wow, there's a lot of things in the Theragun Pro that I'm not getting with the Theragun Mini, and look, that is true to an extent, but this is still packs quite a punch, especially compared to other massage guns you will find on the market. So while it's definitely downsizing from what the Pro offers, it's definitely still substantial in what it offers. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the design of the Theragun Mini. Now, as you can see, compared to my hand, I'm probably slightly larger, a male adult hand. It's a really good fit. You've got the power button over here, which is going to do your 3 settings of speed. So you got your 1750, your 2100 and your 2400 ppms. Now, as you can see, when you're holding this, you can actually reach around and adjust the button more or less without having to, I guess, pull it out of position and stop and do this. However, then again, if you've got smaller hands, then that might be a bit of a problem. The concave's in the middle here on both sides, so you can kind of get a grip like this. But it is a very slippery plastic, and I do think, considering that not all hands are as big as mine, that there's going to be smaller people's hands using this and potentially people's hands using this, that it can get a bit hard to hold when it's vibrating crazily and your hand's only getting to here, right? And I think that potentially they should have put some sort of texture on this, or even rubber, so there was a better grip of your hand when you were using it. I think that would have been an improvement for sure. Now, the head at the end here, as I said, you can remove this quite easily. Just comes off like that, and there are replacements that you can put on there, but it doesn't come off when you're using it. So even though it's quite easy to take off then, it doesn't come off when you're using it at all. And you obviously can't reticulate this like you can with, say, the Theragun Pro and some of the other massage guns on the market, which have a bit of a longer thing. So as you can imagine, you can only go as far as your hand can reach plus that. So any further, like further around the back of your shoulders, for example, or back under your hamstrings even, you might struggle to reach with this particular device. So that's some of the basic issues with the design of it. Weight-wise, as I said, it's 650 grams. It feels really dense, but very well balanced. It's definitely not leaning either way. It feels perfectly balanced the whole way across, so you've got no problems with that. The biggest downer for me with this is the charging. So as you can see here, it just uses a very basic old school charger. In fact, I have it right here. So you can't just plug it into USB-C that you may have already with you when you're traveling or on the go, and I think that's a mistake because obviously this whole thing's about portability, and it's not portable when you've got to take this as well, as portable anyway. And finally, I don't know if it's going to come through on the microphone at all, but I'll just give you an idea for the sound. Now, compared to the Theragun Pro, it's definitely a reduction in sound, and this is the quietest of the Theragun range. And I find it actually quite good compared to what I've heard before. So I'll show you on all 3 speeds. So that's really quite quiet. And on top speed, start to get a bit of a sound out of it on top speed for sure. Look at that. And you just hold down and off. So that is a look at the design of the Theragun Mini. Right, so let's talk about the performance of the Theragun Mini, and this is where it really shines. The Therabody power and just the way that this is constructed, the quality of the construction, the durability of the design, everything like that, is where I find the whole range stands out, but in particular the Mini, it still has all that quality despite the price. So you are going to get exactly what it says it's going to give you. You're going to get those unbelievable PPMs, and it's not going to relent. And you can just push this into your body and it'll just keep going and going and going and going and going. It's also incredibly useful how much more portable this is. And while the inability to kind of get to those real hard to reach places, like, I mean, you can still get pretty close, but you know, if you've got an actual injury and you're trying to reach behind your own shoulder, that's when it becomes a problem. If it's tight, that's when it's hard to do that. But you know, with the reticulated guns with the reticulated ends, like the Theragun Pro or other massage guns that have a bit longer, you know, it's a bit easier to get to some of these places. Also, like your hamstrings, for example. So in that side of things, the performance of it, obviously, its construction doesn't allow it to succeed as much as those in that particular respect. But the portability of it means that you can just chuck it in your handbag, you can just chuck it in your backpack. My wife carries this around with her when she's going out in a handbag. I've taken it in my backpack on travels. It's easy, it fits in anywhere, right? And even though it's got the only the 150 minutes of battery compared to the Theragun Pro's 300, 150 is still a lot. And for the kind of use case you have this for, where you might use it in spits and spurts, maybe a couple of times a day, that 150 lasts a long time. So unless you're actually going to go for a long distance travel, most of the time for us, and I've had this now for 6 months or so, it usually just sits on a kitchen counter or somewhere that's easy to access for quick relief, and we just plug it in when it's sitting on the counter. So I don't think we've ever actually got to a point of draining the battery, so I wouldn't be overly concerned with that. So despite the fact that it's still got that power and performance, you've still got decent battery life, and it just keeps going, going, going. So my take on the Theragun Mini is that there's actually a market of people for this device where it's actually preferable. It's the better massage gun option for them over the higher priced and more fully featured options in the Theragun range, and indeed from other suppliers as well. And the reason I say this is because I've had this in the house for 6 months now. I've had the Theragun Pro for probably a year and a half. And I do use it a lot. I do use both of them a lot. My wife uses them a lot as well. Now, since the Theragun Mini has come to the house, I still will go personally to the Pro because I love that extra depth, that extra pressure, because it can handle up to this can handle 9 kilos of sustained pressure or when you're pushing in 9 kilos of pressure, 20 pounds. Whereas the Pro can hold 60 pounds of pressure. Now, that's still a lot of pressure. Most people aren't even going to get there, but I prefer being able to really push in, that extra bit of depth you get on it, and the reticulated arm. Those type of features makes me go for the Theragun Pro. However, that's because it's in my house. And I'm finding myself using the Mini more and more because I can chuck it in my bag when I'm going out a lot easier. It's easy just to have lying around. So it's easy, it doesn't take up that much real estate if you just got it sitting in the kitchen bench and you walk in and oh geez, I'll just pick that up and just have a quick go. For that type of thing, I've been finding myself using the Mini more and more and more as time goes on, because that use case is actually really, really powerful. Now, my wife, on the other hand, is almost exclusively using the Mini. So for her, she much prefers how it's lighter. She can get a better grip on it with her hands. She loves the portability of it as well. And the fact that it's actually not as hardcore as the Pro is actually better for her because she's a bit more sensitive to that pressure. And she doesn't like it as painful as I like it. Painful in a good way, if you know what I mean. So as a result, my wife has ended up using the Theragun Mini almost exclusively. And it's only the Theragun Pro she goes to if there's somewhere that she needs to reach, which is really hard to get to, and I'm not around to help her. So that's where I think the use case of this is great. The other ability is that I've also got young children, and they can never ever think about using the Pro. It's just too heavy and too unwieldy for them and too powerful for them. So for them, this all of a sudden becomes something that they can use. The kids are much more sensitive to this. It's a violent experience to push this into your muscles, and most of the kids can't handle it, definitely with a Theragun Pro. But this is something they started to use a little bit, and they can hold on to it and they can move it, and so therefore another use case there. So what I found really intriguing about the Theragun Mini then from a review perspective here is that yes, it doesn't quite have the power or features of its bigger brethren, but it's actually kind of more user-friendly. And in that respect, I can see a lot of people actually opting as the better choice, not the cheaper choice, if that makes sense. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the Theragun Mini. Now, I probably should let you know that there are various attachments. As I mentioned, you only get one with the Theragun Mini. I can show you here, I've got some of the other attachments available. Now they cost about $29 each. So if you want a kind of a different experience, the wedge, this one is probably the most user-friendly because it's the softer. So if you've got kids or someone who's got a bad injury, this can take a lot of the brunt out of it. But to be honest, the standard ball is more than fine, and it's what I predominantly use anyway. But you can get other attachments for about $29 each. You can also pick up different colored skins if you want to change from white to, I think there's 5 or 6 different colors you can choose. They're also $29 each if you want to get some skins. Those are the retail prices on the Therabody store. You might be able to shop around and find them for a little bit cheaper. From what my experience of having a look around, you haven't been able to find it for much cheaper than those $29 advertised prices. Anyway, there you go. That's my thoughts on the Theragun Mini. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you head across to the finder.com.au website on the link that I put in the description below so you can read my full review, and also check out the latest and greatest prices for what I think is a really great massage gun with a very awesome use case for a lot of people out there that I'm sure are suffering from aches and pains just like me, because growing old sucks. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'm Chris from Finder. See you later.